takes you out of boredom, it takes you out of stereotypes and diminishing explanations about yourself, your life, your relationships. And it's fun, and it's full of creativity, and it's empowering. It's really, I don't know, I think it's very positive for well-being in general. What it covers as a concept is people learn to do something with their body, and they can do it anytime they want in their ordinary life. And this has a great impact in stress management, anxiety, stepping out of repetitive thoughts, intense and overwhelming emotions. You can move your awareness in the body, and then you can change the emotional state. Along the way, I found a system to put things together in a methodology that is original, different from what was there before, but also including all the knowledge, people before me and teachers and colleagues in the field.
Before we go to the coming episodes, I would like to thank you for your support so far. If you liked the previous conversations and you want to see more of it, I'll really encourage you to follow the channels YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or Amazon. And if you have certain comments or certain feedback, or there are certain topics you would like to have discussed in the coming time, let us know as well. Thank you very much, and let's go to the next guest. Here we are. Hi, Andrea.
Hey. Hello.
How's it going?
How are you? It's going well. Thank you. Thank you. Sunny day today. I'm happy.
Yeah, great. So you have a lot of sunny days here in Spain. You're in Spain, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. In Barcelona.
Yeah. Same as me. Hey, happy to have you here in the podcast.
Thank you.
It's already our third episode. And always, before we really start diving into the conversation, I like to introduce you so that the audience know who is here and what knowledge and value that you are going to share in the upcoming conversation. So your name is Andrea Traldi. You actually studied clinical psychology, and you broadened this profession actually with a professional scope by engaging in extensive research in somatics, along with incorporating traditional medical approaches such as shamanism, kinesiology, it's a difficult word, kinesiology, hands-on healing, and more into his practices. Additionally, he is actively involved as an artist and researcher in the field of art education methodologies. And you also have a PhD in transdisciplinary education.
Correct. Thank you very much.
That's complete. Okay, great. Amazing. So what if I studied your work a little bit before having this conversation, of course, and I see that the main topics you're focusing on is the subconscious of the body and the mind.
Yes.
Exactly. So let's dive in that immediately. Let's explain a little bit your backstory. So where you come from, how you grew up, what made you choose to study clinical psychology, and then how do you actually come to this topic that we're mostly going to talk about today, the subconscious body and the mind.
Okay. Thank you for your question.
You're welcome.
Well, the interest in psychology was born since early youth, young age. You want to learn how things work, why people do what they do, this kind of curiosity. And in high school in Italy, where I grew up, we had philosophy, but we didn't have psychology. So I was interested in philosophy, and that was the best. And I thought that would be, my trajectory. And then I thought, okay, but all philosophy comes from here, so let's study here. And I went to study psychology. And then, of course, you study psychology, and also you feel like some other piece is missing. So it's this learning process of things that are incomplete, not because they lack something, but because it's just the nature of things. You never stop learning and adding pieces. And so after psychology, I went on and continued with all these other disciplines that you put in the introduction to have a more holistic, a more complete picture and build a sort of understanding of these dynamics between people and things that I feel, and maybe I cannot find the explanation in television, or maybe from my family or school, nobody explained these things, but I feel something and I want to find an explanation. And so this was the origin of the quest. And along the way, I found a system to put things together in a methodology that is original, different from what was there before, but also including all the knowledge of people before me and teachers and colleagues in the field. And that is how this whole process evolved along the years.
Okay. So did you feel already very early when you did your studies that there was something missing for you?
Yes, that was kind of the engine behind everything. As a young adolescent already, I could see there were these holes in the explanations and the language that we use because of these needs and sensations that were not included. People would talk about some aspects of an experience as if that explains everything, but for me, there was an important missing piece, and I didn't know how to express it. I didn't know how to define it. I didn't know where to find somebody that can explain to me, because as a kid you learn with illustration and explanations from others, and then you start also giving value to your own perceptions, as you grow up as an adult. And so that was the engine behind everything. There's always this limit, but then it's ontological. I mean, it's just the nature of knowledge in the West. Every discipline, by definition, wants to expand and include everything. Design wants to design everything. Psychology wants to understand everything, and physics wants to have the one rule for everything. But every discipline has its limits.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's also what defines the value of what you can do. So then we step into a bigger field, which is the transdisciplinary field, where you find which one is the best for this moment. So you kind of bring down to earth, bring down to this moment, which is the perspective, which is the word, which is the language that is interesting to use. And even more, it becomes which is the word that is interesting to not use. Because we know so much now with the internet and all the things that we have at our disposal. So it's really a process of what do I not say? What do I not do? You build this 3D perspective. It's not flat anymore. It's not in and out. It's like, okay, this is a little bit in the background, but it's still there. This is invisible, but I know it's there. And so you have to play a little bit like multiple layers, like a director in a movie, Yeah. I find this fascinating. This is a bit of my explanation for that.
It's definitely fascinating. Yeah, totally. It makes me actually wondering, what is the current state of traditional psychology? Do you feel that most psychologists also going in that path out of curiosity and expanding and their knowledge and being open for new research and discovery? So you still feel that it's still very traditional and that you have a lot of clinical psychologists that are maybe just stuck in what they have learned and not really evolve. Do you have an idea how it is in the current state?
Of course, I can just use generalizations. But in my opinion, it's a little bit like any profession. So if you want a plumber or an architect, there's going to be 99 architects that you don't like, that are not good for you, and there's one that is good for you. And psychology is the same. It's not because you study psychology that you are any better than any other category of professional. So statistically, it's the same. There's going to be a lot of psychologists that maybe they feel comfortable channeling and repeating in a way what they learned, and they don't feel much the need to innovate. And others that maybe they want to do more research, they want to break beyond some boundaries, they want to write articles or develop practical strategies to see a little bit without necessarily demolishing the whole paradigm. But also within psychology, there are major currents that historically has have a lot of weight. In US in particular, you have behaviorism, and the base of behaviorism is that the mind has no importance. I do this, and the mouse does that. Okay, that's it. So I don't include the mind in this control loop, in this examination. Then you have cognitivism, which is kind of middle ground, where you have the mind. The mind is considered important. It has a role. So there is this, in the loop, there is the moment where the mind has its importance. So you have input, mind, output. It's not just input, output. And then you have psychoanalysis historically, where the mind is super important. And everything you do is controlled by your mind, and you don't even know, because it's actually the subconscious of your mind. And so you have these different spaces within the clinical psychology tradition, and inside of these three trajectories, you have so many possibilities for each person to go more in depth and tinker a little bit and build their own personal trajectory. Although maybe not everybody is tempted to do so. Maybe a lot of people are very comfortable in giving standardized formulas, and that's a strength. So sometimes that's a strength. You need to understand, is it good for me as you go as a client? Does it feel good for me? Do I need that? Is this person the right one for me? There is always the human element in the picture. It's not like chemistry. The formula works independent of the person in the white coat. With psychology, there's always this element in the picture, I think.
Yeah, definitely. But it is evolving with new discoveries and new research that's getting done. We see that doing somatic psychology can be very beneficial for certain people and even replace traditional psychology in many ways. I don't know, and it's just a bit of an assumption. I'm not really an expert in this, but I see that more and more around me that somatic psychology also it's more easier to access in a way. Once you learn it, you're not dependent so much anymore of someone externally, although you can combine it, of course. But can you explain to the audience a little bit what is somatic psychology? What are the benefits, and why should someone start exploring this area?
I think you pointed out a very interesting aspect, which is the empowering aspect, the agency that you gain through an approach that includes the body. In particular, movement with the body. So you instruct people, as a facilitator, you instruct people or a group of people to do some movements. And then something happens to the body, which is connected to something that happens to the mind, to make it very, very simple. And as a byproduct, as a consequence, people learn to do something with their body, and they can do it anytime they want in their ordinary life. And this has a great impact in stress management, anxiety, stepping out of repetitive thoughts, intense and overwhelming emotions. You can move your awareness in the body, and then you can change the emotional space, the mental space. And I think this is very interesting. And I do like the cognitivist and even psychoanalytic approach. I appreciate the lineage of Jung and the collective unconscious, which some, including me, also define as collective subconscious. And I make just a little explanation. You can imagine this continuum between the conscious, the things you see and you are aware of, the subconscious, which is just under the threshold of awareness, and the unconscious, which is like deeper, when you are in deep sleep, for instance. So this is how I like to explain what we do. And the three of them, of course, they're useful and you should have them, otherwise there's a problem. But I tend to work a lot with the subconscious. So going in and out of this moment of awareness where you can access this subliminal input through your senses, through your body. And I believe you can do it with the mind as well. You don't need to do somatic psychology. But in my experience, it takes a long time. Very often, what somatic psychology was going through the body can give you is a shortcut. It makes things faster. So it's not about eliminating the mind. It's about becoming fluent in this discourse, in this narrative, going in and out. Okay, now I follow my body, now I follow my mind. So you can use the mind as a tool instead of having the mind define everything in your life, because it cannot. There's things in your life that you cannot define with your rational mind. So that's why I think it's interesting. Also, it doesn't create an emotional shock, because you do things that are obviously not happening because of rational mind, but you don't lose your sanity. And that's something that sounds a bit funny, but it's one of the major obstacles at the beginning in the sessions, in the workshops. People think, okay, if I accept this, if I accept that something is happening and I don't have an explanation, then I will go mad. There is this idea, if I don't have an explanation, I will go mad. I will lose myself. And it's not like that. You stay exactly as you are. Yeah. It's just a bigger space with more possibilities. But this space where you have all your explanation is still there. Yeah. You're just expanding to include a little bit of instinct and intuition and feelings and aspects of experiences that are not here. They are here. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. So you make it playful, you make exercises that are easy, and then people can go at their own rhythm. They need 6 months, they need 6 months. They enjoy the session, they want to come back, fantastic. Come back, we do another session. Yeah. It's in my opinion, there is a common element maybe between somatic psychology and other healing or therapeutic sessions. It's the respect. You need to respect the rhythm of the person, the language of the person. It's not about explaining things. It's not about telling things. It's about listening and finding the words and creating the space for their story. Yeah. And you want to give so much, but they decide what you will be able to give, not you. Exactly. This is one of the things that is good to put in the trainings, I think, for the teachers, because there's a lot of enthusiasm. People who train to become a therapist, they want to, and so you have to kind of modulate that with this element of respect. Yeah. There is a time for everything if the person decides. Yeah. You don't decide. So.
And that process, I guess, that changes as well, because I can imagine that a lot of people take decisions out of the mind, but once you learn to go more into the body, then you start taking decisions out of the body, right?
Absolutely. That's why you need to be able to move in and out of both things. Yeah. It's not one or the other. That is also one of the language pointers that puts you in trouble. It's like, this is better than that. No, you have both. Yeah. In some situations you use a little bit more of this, and then maybe you want to put a little more of that. Yeah. You are free to use both.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is my...
Yeah. No, yeah. Explain a little bit. Why should people go and explore more their subconscious, and what can they expect to find there?
That's a very good question, actually. I think there is this idea of explaining life with rational mind, with things that are part of the conscious, aspects of reality that we can define. But there's a lot of dissatisfaction. There's a lot of flattening. You tell the story of your life with things of the rational mind, and everything is reduced to very dry categories. It's like 2D instead of 3D. So in the subconscious, you honor all these aspects that are more emotional, that are more of the body. So if we go back and forward into more shamanic tradition, alternative medicine tradition, but also Western tradition, because psychosomatics is a whole field of study. It's not that the Western science is unaware of this. Western science has its own language and its own method to explore the same realm of experiences. But it is this idea of including the feelings, the sensations into the explanations. So including things that are sometimes we are not aware of because we limit our explanations, and then we tend to think that what is not in the explanation don't exist. That is a little bit the problem of the rational mind. And so the first step is to understand that it's a choice. You explain something, you say something, but there's a lot that you decide to not say, to not put in your sentence. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. And it's a constant training, because the more we use the rational mind, the more we have to balance this reflex.
Yeah.
And the body helps with that, because we can travel into the body, into parts of the body that are dormant, because maybe we don't use them for various reasons. Could be sedentary life, could be repetitive movements. Any person who develops a certain lifestyle because of work and the things that you do every day has some movements and some tissues, some structures in the body that are less used than others. Mm-hmm. And the more you do this over the years, the more this part of the body becomes dormant. Mm-hmm. And so you kind of lose this freedom, mm-hmm. these possibilities that are in your body, in your physical body.
Yeah.
So when you do exercises that go into the deep layers of the body, the fascia, the different layers of tissues, and awaken these tissues, suddenly there is an opening.
Yeah.
That is physical, but also, because everything is connected, there is an opening that is emotional, that is mental. Yeah. And that's how we work. We have exercises that are safe, anatomy-based. Some are even from physiotherapy, so that you are sure that you can work with people from any age, any background, and it's safe. But the goal is not aesthetic, like mm-hmm. it could be for dance or performance, mm-hmm. like it could be for sports. It's just to follow the natural anatomy structures of the body into a space that is maybe dormant because of your everyday lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And that creates the access to the subconscious in the body, the dormant parts of the body mm-hmm. that you don't feel.
Yeah.
And once you learn that, and you, of course, you do also another part that is, you listen, you receive the images and feelings that come from your mind, and emotions, thoughts, and also then there is the transpersonal part, which is more about synchronicity and the people around you, and how does this change relationships.
Yeah.
So all these things are connected, and they are mostly subconscious. There is a big part of these important aspects of your life that are subconscious. So it's interesting to be able to access them and decide, okay, I want to put this front, I want to keep this in the background.
Yeah.
Because it is important sometimes to keep them in the subconscious.
Yeah.
But you want to kind of be aware
mm-hmm.
of this 3D space that you're moving.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, one word that comes up to me is healing. I haven't heard it yet in the conversation, but I think it's because of personal experience. When I discovered actually that my body was an important part of my whole being, and that my body, I should listen more to my body, that had a huge impact on me myself. And you just explained actually, okay, yeah, if you're doing this kind of work, you start opening up more and listen more to your body. But at the same time, a lot of things can come up that were stored in your body for a long time. And that these are the emotions, right? So depending on your history and your background, it can be very intense that when you're doing and starting this kind of work. I don't want to scare people, but it's just my experience. And then the word healing comes into play here, because it's having these kind of events that's coming out of your subconscious more into the mind, where you start to receive answers actually from past experience that you had, or certain feelings that you still have today, or some things in your personality you want to change or improve. For me, at least, were very profound in when I started doing this kind of work. So I can imagine that you have the same kind of experience in a certain way, because I consider you as an expert in this work. Maybe you can explain or share a little bit about yourself, how you experience that, or maybe a specific event, or if you prefer to do that also for the people that you train and the people that come actually to you for exploring this kind of work.
Yes, absolutely. There is something that is current in the lingo of these methodologies. You can hear a lot the conversation on somatic release or emotional release during the sessions. It's something that is out there. And it's one way of defining what you just described. So it's important to train teachers, facilitators, to create this space where the somatic release, the emotional release, is part of a process. And it's important that it's part of a process because the intense emotion can be an element that creates blockage. And so you want to make sure that it comes out as part of a process where you have this journey into some parts of your body, parts of emotions, thoughts, and then you have a journey that continues. So you want to create a comfortable space, like physical space. You have to check where you are, what you have available. The person in the session or the group, they have to be in a space of comfort. This is one of the fundamental aspects of my methodology, at least our methodology.
Yeah.
And this comfort is present at every level. So it's not just the space, so the temperature, you cannot have people lying on the floor and the floor is cold. They're going to be like this, they're not going to relax. So there are little details that seem futile, but
happens a lot.
in the training, you need to do that because otherwise it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And then the comfort is also in the words you use, the choice of words.
Yeah.
You want to listen to understand which words are important and maybe which words you don't want to use. And the movement that you propose, they have to be very comfortable. So which strategies to create this space for release? And the comfort generates release. When people are comfortable, they let go. And so this is when you access this subconscious in the body. And there will be a moment, maybe in one session, maybe in more than one session, where there is this connection that is more intense, coming from the mind, the emotions, memories, thoughts, but it's happening in this space of comfort that you have created in the body. And people in your trainings, in your sessions, they will learn automatically that they can go in that space in the body whenever they feel this intense emotion rising. So it's interesting because it is connected to something that is liberated, and maybe it was stored, as you said, for years. Yeah. But also what we are creating is this knowledge in the body. I can do this movement. I can move my awareness somewhere in the body and release, and this intense emotion will be dispersed. It will travel, and will go in all other layers of my life, even transpersonal. It will go out, and it's fine, and I can do this. It's not overwhelming. Emotions become overwhelming when you want to trap them into a small space. And of course, this thing is big. It's a wave. It needs to travel. Yeah. So you learn how to do that by yourself, which I think is truly an important element in the picture. You want to give agency. The goal is not that people come back to you for a session. The goal is that they learn how to move and dance with their body, even in invisible ways, just move in the awareness. Maybe you are in transport, you are in the subway, and you just do something with your tongue, something with your pelvic floor, something with your breathing. And, there's a whole adventure going on inside of it, nobody knows. But you can do these things. It's very interesting and playful. But for me, one big element for the emotional release and somatic release is making it part of a process and creating the possibility for the person to have agency in this process.
Okay. Very interesting that you explain what's happening during a session, how that benefits certain people. Can you explain, or can you give an example maybe out of your own life, how that changed something in your life, how that changed certain decisions that you took or changed the direction?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Well, the way that I like to call this aspect of the methodology is somatic intuition. And so I have to add a little bit of an explanation. If it's too big, you kind of funnel me in, and then, and then we stay on topic. But basically, I like to identify three moments where you connect with the body. And it's somatic awareness would be a practice that you do, an exercise, to connect with these dormant structures in the body. So you become aware of the subconscious in the body. And somatic intuition in when these connections arrive from the mind, from the emotions. And so you work with some aspects of the subconscious that are also in the mind, but through the body. You still keep this element of regulation with the body. So you explore the mind through the body and vice versa.
Yeah.
And the third one is somatic dream time. And somatic dream time includes the transpersonal. It refers to the shamanic tradition of dream time, which the Aboriginals in Australia in particular use to include everything in nature. There are processes outside of us that with Western mentality you would consider outside of you, the light of the stars, the wind, or the smell in the air, or another person. And in the animistic and tradition of shamanism everywhere in the world, but the word dream time is proper to the Aboriginal in Australia, it has an importance on the processes that happen inside of you, in your body, in your mind, in your emotions. And so we step into the transpersonal, which very simply is the relationships also, things that happen at work, things that happen in your family, family lineage, things that come down from generation, which is a big topic, and even thoughts and other places, thoughts as ideas, projects for the future, other places, other times. So all this is like three spheres. I like to explain this to the teachers that I train. Imagine like there's rational mind, then you have somatic awareness, somatic intuition, somatic dream time. And you can create trajectories within the three spheres as you like. You can connect just to point in somatic dream time, just to point in the intuition, or go through them, in and out. So you learn to do that. Now, going back to your question and how do I use that? I use a lot this element of dreaming, so accessing the subconscious for me is accessing dream time. And I do it every day. I do it when I take a shower, because this is an example to explain that dream time is always there. It's not only when you sleep. This is the interesting transformation when you start looking at things with this other perspective. So I can access dream time not only when I sleep, I can access it in the moments where I am awake, which means, for instance, all the moments where you have this sort of trance-like state, where you don't really focus with rational mind and precise thoughts. And for instance, when I take a shower, I have fantastic channeling. Sometimes I stay 5, 10, 15 minutes in the shower because I'm thinking about something at work. And the answer comes as a channel. And I come out and I write like for half an hour, 45 minutes. Another moment that happens a lot is the fridge. I don't know if you have that. You open the fridge and you stay there for 2 minutes, which from the outside is completely demented. People don't know what you're doing. But inside, a lot of things are happening. And so there are a lot of these moments in transport, when you're in the metro, biking, running. A lot of people run because it's a form of meditation. So all these are, for me, little windows that you can open to access the subconscious. And you can have more formal rituals, like we said, meditation, many sorts of meditation. You can look at a candle, you can look walking meditation, any sort of meditation, or sound journeys. So anytime there is a moment in your day that creates this feeling of awareness of something vague. It's not like active thinking and giving instruction with the logic and focus. There you are going towards the threshold of the subconscious. So you can learn.
Don't we all do that automatically in a way?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
The problem is that in Western culture, all these moments are considered rubbish. Nobody gives value to that.
Yeah.
It's called parasite images. So there are either no words to define those moments because it's a whole landscape of different nuances, and it just flattened out with 3 words in the negative. So it doesn't really, it's conducive to exploring more.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of value in those moments. And because of the exercises you do with the body, you can explore more and more these moments.
So you do it more consciously then?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So that's kind of the difference. So I think because, all the examples that you give, I recognize myself in that. And as a more conscious person, I also, go through that and start asking questions and see it more from a distance. But I remember that, many of these moments are just happen automatically as a moment for me to relax, take a little break, mental break or whatever it is. And so you say now, okay, it's super healthy to do that, but it's even better to do that in a more conscious way and then learn something out of that? Or
Exactly. It's interesting to have some instruments of navigation for when that territory is available.
Okay.
And it becomes an adventure. It's so much fun. And also it's so useful because I'm very productive. I can do things in 2-3 hours that I do in a week.
Yeah.
If I just use my rational mind, it's less this curve space, and you go from 2 points in a much faster way than if you take the straight line here. Mm-hmm. So it's really valid for many reasons. It takes you out of boredom. It takes you out of stereotypes and diminishing explanations about yourself, your life, your relationships. And it's fun, and it's full of creativity, and it's empowering. It's really, I don't know. I think it's very positive for well-being in general. It's like.
Yeah. Can you give some concrete examples? You talk about relationships, maybe some other things. How did it change? Or how can it change someone?
Yes. Well, if somebody comes to a session and they have had an emotional breakup, like a relationship breakup, or loss of somebody in the family, or a pet, we can do some exercise in the body to see if there are some parts of the body that are maybe contracted, limited, as a reaction of the story. So there are various steps in the session. I'm not going to go too much in detail, but there is the interview moment where you listen and you observe the body. You don't only listen to what the person says. You also observe the body. What happens when the person talks about one thing or another, one word or another, and then you decide, okay, I'm going to do this kind of physical exercise to create space and movement, because the goal is always that. Create space and movement where, for some reason, the person has less. Mm-hmm. It can be trauma, can be physical, can be emotional, can be mental, low self-esteem, thinking I cannot do something, or family history, whatever, new place, a city where everybody hates me, things like that.
Yeah.
And create more space. And because you create more space and movement in the body and agency in the body, in that part of the body that you know because you have trained, but also that you recognize because of the person behavior during the story that they were saying. So, okay, that part was kind of blocked. I saw that reaction. Let's work with that part. Then you will see that things come out from the mind, emotions. You can also talk to the person, mm-hmm. and kind of stimulate this sort of release. Mm-hmm. And this is one example for emotions, traumatic or difficult, sadness. But you can work with creativity. You don't have to have a bad situation to find it useful to access the subconscious. Mm-hmm. Artists, I've worked a lot with artists and art education. It's fantastic. The project that they are working on can be transformed and multiplied and enhanced because of these techniques to access the subconscious.
Okay.
Work-related things. The example that I gave for myself. I have a project. I want to write an article. I want to create some content. This kind of technique gives you access to so many words and elements that are connected But if you go through rational mind, it would take you so long.
Yeah.
So it works in enterprise sector for stress management, for anxiety, to find your own style of leadership. I say we because I have a team, we have given workshops for this kind of team building events, retreats for management, and even focus workshop, like 3-hour sort of brainstorming techniques.
Yeah.
What happens if we do this with the breathing, with the body, So it can really be, it's obviously everywhere all the time. You have a body, everybody has a body, everybody has a subconscious. So this technique will work. You can really put it to use. And this is the advantage of being open source. If you want, the design of this methodology was always meant to be flexible and adaptable.
Yeah.
So that you bring the new piece of the puzzle. I can never do what you do.
Yeah.
I can give you some protocols and you use them, you will see that some incredible stuff comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you will help evolve the methodology because you have a background that I don't have.
Yeah.
So that's also interesting. It's like it's fractal, it's at different scales. There is this openness. There is no one discipline, no one explanation, no one thought. There is always this element of process-based going on.
Yeah.
But also structure when you need it. So you can rely on something. It's not all fluid, all energy. Mm-hmm. Because you need to have something solid at some point.
Yeah.
But you don't want to be trapped in something solid. So it's always a little dance between these moments.
Yeah. Can you tell a little bit more about the technique and how you teach it? I hear you speaking about movement. On your website, yes. I see breath flow, so I assume that is something with the breath. The example you just gave, it felt to me that it was more one-on-one, but I can imagine that you also do group sessions. So can you explain that a little bit more? What are the advantages of one-on-one or a group session? These kind of things.
Yes, thank you. The one-on-one sessions obviously are for people who contact you because they want to talk about something in their life. And whether it is for creative reasons, for emotional reasons, you address that. The group sessions can be also for different target groups. And then it becomes thematic. So you can have a group session that is for finding guidance, so self-growth, more holistic kind of crowd. And then it's about the inner guide and synchronicity and how do you connect with these elements in your life, because this is the interest for this group. Mm-hmm. You can have an event where you decide a theme and then people show up, 20, 30, 40, 10. Depends.
It's not like a limit, like you say, maximum this, minimum that.
I would say, well, depending on how many people you have to change the protocol, because some protocols are good when you have small groups, but then when you have big groups, you have to change it. And if you have one-on-one, you have to change it. And if you are online, you have to change it. So this is why it's good to have a flexible methodology, because you can do the work, but you want to adapt to the situation.
And what do you mean with protocols? Can you give an example? What is a protocol?
Yes. The protocols are usually a little bit of introduction, explanation, what's going on.
Yeah.
Because people, 99% of the time, they never heard of it, or if they heard of it, they heard of it from someone else. So you want to make sure that you are all on the same page. And you introduce the methodology and yourself a little bit. And then you start with creating this container for the experience. And in psychotherapy, it's called the settings. In holistic circles, it's called holding space. Mm-hmm. So you create these parameters that give meaning to the experience, and you can guide people because you know you have given them these parameters. So you can say, look here, look there, we are doing this, we are doing that. One of the big elements in the picture for us is anatomy. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes showing anatomy illustrations can be very interesting. You can have them on the wall, or you can give them around, depending on the kind of workshop that you do, if you want people to go home with a little pamphlet, or if you want them to just have an experience. Because you want to make sure that when you do the movement exercise, they move their awareness into the part of the body that you want. Some word can be very vague, especially in anatomy, especially if people don't know anatomy. But even if they do know anatomy, very often anatomy is taught with books and illustrations from medical anatomy, which is about dead bodies cut into pieces to study illness. People don't identify, when you present those kind of images. That's why we went to the extra step to recruit an artist and have our own set of anatomy drawing, which is amazing. It's very difficult to find people who are good at that. But it's very important for the exercise. So you want to give some anatomy to explain the methodology, because we work with the body and you want to explain why, give some background. But also you are thinking, okay, I show these images, maybe it's the pelvic floor, maybe it's the rib cage, maybe it's something else. Because you know that you're going to give an exercise where you need people to move their awareness in the area of the body that they saw in the image. And so you need to remove everything else. Because when you see an image of medical anatomy of the rib cage, a section of the rib cage, there's so much going on. There's everything. There's capillaries and lymph nodes and muscles and tendons and bones and it's just confusing. And what am I looking at?
Yeah.
So if you want people to move their attention towards the diaphragm, you show maybe a silhouette of a body with just a diaphragm. And this is important because you want to be simple. We have a Montessori style pedagogy, which means you make things simple. The basic of the Montessori education style is to reduce the amount of confusion at the sensorial level, perceptive level, mental level. So you want to do things step by step in a simple way. So you show just rib cage, diaphragm. That's what you show.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's the beginning of the session. Whether it's maybe in individual, you don't always do it, but in the group session, it's interesting. It brings people in coordination.
Yeah.
You know they're moving their awareness in the same direction and around the same elements, visual and semantic. Then you move to the exercise, which again, it's a very simple exercise, anatomy-based, safe, and you know, because you are trained, so with me, so you know that if people need a pillow or don't need a pillow, there are a lot of little tips, that cues that the teacher has to see. If a person is lying on the floor but completely tensed, then it's not good, because we go back to the original pointer, relaxation and comfort. So you have to put people comfortable. And then they relax, and then you do the movement on the floor. Most of the time, why on the floor? Because you eliminate the force of gravity. We spend so many hours vertical. And when we are vertical, there are a lot of muscles that are working to keep you vertical. And the muscles of posture in particular are very deep. The muscles of movement are large and are more superficial. And we are very used to feel the big muscles, like the trapeze, the pec, and arms here, But there are a lot of other muscles that are deep, and it's difficult to create a connection with these deep muscles unless you can relax them. And you cannot relax them if you're vertical. The muscle at the back of your spine, for instance, they are keeping your spine vertical. So when you relax on the floor and you can really let go, then you can do all this movement where you go deep. And you go even into the connective tissue, the fascia, the chains of bones and joints. You can go as deep as you want. And the more you go deep, the more you will see that this dreamtime element arrives, the subconscious element in the body. Because that part of the body, you don't feel it in everyday life. You are disconnected from it. It's below the level of awareness. And so you are exploring this, and half the people fall asleep during the exercise. And it's fine. That's what we want. It's dream time. So you guide them in a way that also with your voice. If you want to wake them up, you have to speak with louder voice and do movement that engage the big muscles and stretch. And if you want them to fall asleep, you choose an exercise that is maybe more moderate. You lower the rhythm, you lower the tone of voice. So you know all these things go together.
So the goal is to be as relaxed as possible. Is that a goal?
Yes.
So that
Yes.
Yeah.
Most of the time, let's say that 99% of the time,
Yeah.
you want comfort because you want people to go in a place in their body where maybe they are afraid, maybe it's painful, maybe
Yeah.
they're stuck.
Yeah, exactly.
And unless you give them comfort, they're not going to do it. Even if the mind tries and say, hey, I want to go there, the body's like, no,
yeah,
forget
of course,
it.
yeah.
I'm not going to do it. You know, it has its own intelligence.
Yeah.
So you need to cater to the body.
And there are mostly
Even
parts
more than the mind.
Yeah, and there are mostly parts that are always tensed, like for your whole life, probably. You know, you developed a kind of harness or like some protection around certain things that are very sensitive for years and years and years. So it's not evident, you know, to just relax that everything comes out, right? So that needs a lot of time.
Exactly. That's perfect what you say there, because the idea that you just say relax is an idea of the mind.
Yeah.
The mind is like that. The time of the mind and the time of the body are different.
Mm-hmm.
You imagine that you can relax, but imagine is a verb of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to actually relax the body, you have to do some movement exercise, breathing exercise, and give time.
Yeah.
Because the body checks 1, 2, 3. Can I really release here? Is it okay? You know, it's checking for you.
Yeah.
And it's built to do that. And it's good that it does that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need your mind to do that.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you start talking to the body with the language that you use for the mind, you're not going to go far.
Definitely not.
It's precisely why it's interesting to learn the language of the body.
Yeah.
Because then you also put in context the things of the mind. It's like, okay, let's look at the mind from here.
Yeah.
Let's look at the mind from here and from here.
Yeah.
What happens if I relax my diaphragm? What happens if I relax my pelvic floor? Oh, okay, look, there is a different thing here in the mind coming out. Oh, that's my grandmother. Oh, look, there's a door.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
and you can travel dream time because you move around in the body.
Yeah.
It's very adventurous and fascinating. But anyway, back to the session.
Yeah.
We do have the movement session, and then we have the dream journey. So people are relaxed because you used an exercise that is coherent with the theme of the workshop. And then you put some music. I play shamanic instruments. I have drums and flute and various instruments that I play live. On Zoom is a bit more complicated. I try and do my best, but you know, for audio quality is not ideal. And people have this connection with images and feelings and synchronicity, things that happen in the room. The sound of the train going by, a cat scratching on the door. Everything happens in dream time.
Yeah.
This is one of the rules. And when the journey is the sound journey, is to a point where you want to add the mind that can take notes, then you just gently say, now turn to the side, take notes. What are the messages that you received?
Yeah.
Maybe people had a question like, I want guidance on my health, I want guidance on my relationship, I want, everybody has their own journey. And you just take notes.
Yeah.
No filter. This is very important, again, because we have this reflex with rational mind, we want to explain.
Yeah.
And that's not the moment for explanation, because explanation means this is right, this is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't do that to the subconscious. The subconscious is bigger than your rational mind. You don't decide what is right. So you just write the dream, anything that came. And sometimes it's symbolic and fantastic, and sometimes it's just the sound of the washing machine, and that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to turn off, the something at home. That's part of your dream. You learn how to use these things.
Yeah.
And that's precisely why it's interesting, because you can really connect things in ordinary life to things of the subconscious.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then people sit, if it's a group event, and we start with the protocol, the somatic psychology protocol, the exchange, there is a sharing, and there is a way to look at what happened, and there is the power of the group. There is a group dynamic element, a little bit like family constellations. So there are strategies also in place for the psychology aspect of the session, as much as there are for the anatomy and movement. But that would be a whole session. And at the end, you come out with some new insight for that project that you have, or for that question that you have about your own life.
Yeah.
and also with some tools that you can use, because you can practice this at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is a little bit how
Yeah.
it goes.
Yeah, it's interesting to learn about this for sure. If I listen to you and I hear how these sessions work and what is the basis of that, then it comes back to what I said before. It's all about feeling safe and relaxed and being in that state so that your emotions can unblock and that you can learn and see things in a different way. When I were explaining that, I was also thinking on other methodologies. I think on hypnotherapy, for example, where also the basis is to relax as much as possible and be guided by someone. Meditation also for me is in a way where you relax as much as you can. But I also at the same time I see the benefits of being guided by someone that use music as a tool actually to feel more relaxed, because I also, me included, a lot of people are very sensitive to music, and music can really unravel certain things that a voice of a person maybe cannot do. So do you see that as well if you look at different modalities that we have in this domain, in this somatic healing, I would say? Do you see also some common elements there, and how would you compare these different modalities with each other?
Yes, I think you are absolutely right. There are so many modalities available. And again, it's always the question, how do I not go in a space of this is right, this is wrong? I think this is a very important key in the methodology, but in general, in life, I would say. So for some people, hypnotherapy or meditation or whatever enters your life can be the right one.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that is one or the other. All these are interesting techniques if they bring benefit to you. If the consequence is you feel better, that's the right technique. That's my reasoning here. So that's one element for sure. And then I would add that for us, maybe compared to some other techniques, the element of relaxation and comfort and being in the flow is very important, because some other techniques use also elements of shock, or intensity to have this emotional release, and like accelerated breathing or things like that.
Yeah.
And fine, it exists and it has an effect, otherwise it wouldn't be out there. So this is a difference in the technique. And there is a conversation which is also valid. I don't think it's the ultimate explanation, but there is a conversation about, are we going from the mind imposing something to the body? Is it like a male modality, or is it more a methodology that has this element of connecting to the body and then changing the mind, influencing the mind? Mm-hmm. So what's your cultural background? What's your personal background? Can be interesting. Which one you need more? Mm-hmm. Which one can be beneficial because maybe introduces a balance of these elements that both directions are good.
Yeah.
You need to do both. You need to go from up to down and from down to up if you want to be free and balanced and flexible. So maybe are you in a moment of your life where you need more the body element?
Yeah.
Or are you in a moment of your life where the mind can give you some peace and happiness? And it's interesting to look into that. We work a lot with comfort, independent of the technique, whether it's breathing, because that's why it's breath flow, not breath work, for instance.
Yeah.
But also when we work with fascia and pelvic floor and all the other movement sequences, the base is the comfort, because if you don't give comfort, relaxation, there is no possibility to access this space that is dormant or protected by shame, protected by guilt, protected by hurt.
Yeah.
How you get in there.
Yeah.
You get in there because you give people comfort. Otherwise, they don't let you in. It's not going to happen. I don't want to pounce on the wall and destroy the wall and then everything comes out. That's not the way.
Yeah.
The more you relax, the more things will flow into each other, and then we can work on that. Yeah. So again, the other techniques can be good. There's some people who are not into the idea of flow and relaxation. It makes them scream. It makes them nervous. They want, and it's fine. Then, try the other technique, and maybe it's all there is to it. Maybe you want to add other pieces. It's a journey for each one of us.
Yeah. It's good that you mentioned that. There's nothing, not a wrong or right technique. It's just about exploring it for yourself and see what works best for you. And at the same time, I also think as a facilitator or a trainer, it's good to have an open mindset around these kind of things, because today this is something that works really well, done by research, but maybe tomorrow there's something better, and it's a matter of always improving and trying new things. And I think then it's something that's continuously evolving. And we should be grateful that we are at this stage at the moment where we have discovered tools actually that people can use by themselves, and as much as possible, as much as they want, to become better, to heal themselves, to feel better in life for different reasons. Because if you really look at the numbers in society of people having mental health issues, just struggling in their life, and then at the same time, I don't know it's in every country, of course, but I see it in many countries, people that are looking for help, seeking for help, they can't find it because people have to wait. There are not enough people available or experts available that really can help these kind of people with their mental health issues. So for this, I think people like you and other people that doing similar kind of work is really a blessing for this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. You point out some aspects that are very important for us. Like, we work in collaboration with a non-profit, and we give a lot of scholarships for people that want to participate and they have a social impact project. And they get 50% scholarship on any training. And for instance, we have worked with volunteers that are now in indigenous communities. And I know of a teacher in Brazil and one in Australia, and they work with our techniques because in that kind of situation is really an example where Western cultural references don't apply. But still, people, maybe they want to work on their pelvic floor.
Yeah.
They want to work on their breath. So how you do that?
Yeah.
So they have a body, they have dreams, you work with that. This is really, for me, it's such a powerful tool, and I haven't had the opportunity to really go into more advanced collaboration at a political scale, because it's really a technique that puts people together, destroy cultural barriers and personal bias. You find yourself in a room with somebody that you would never talk to in the street, and they, in dream time, you see the same thing. And at the end of the journey, you have a friend in Lithuania, in Zimbabwe, in Alaska. It's such a powerful connector. We live our life conditioned by these, rational mind fears or political discourse, and it's, most of the time, pardon my French, it's bull. You don't need to define your life like that. I think we can do so much better when we go beyond those words and those narratives. And I think this technique can really help in really destroying the cultural barriers and the personal bias. So I love that you mentioned that. And you said something else, I forgot, but I really liked it. But anyways.
Well, yeah, I said many things in a few sentences, I think. So I don't really know what you wanted to.
Oh yes, you said about empowering people. This is another element that I put first and foremost in the development of the technique. You want to give people, even if you do one session, you have to give people at least one exercise.
You give them tools actually that they can use by themselves, right? Yeah.
Yes. Obviously, the more you can see somebody, or the more you see people in the group, you even train them, the more you can give. But even if it's just one session, you want to leave them at least one exercise, at least one somatic psychology protocol, so they can start, exploring at their own rhythm in their life. That's it. That's up to them, how much they want. But you want to at least create this experience that they have agency. Yeah. I think it's fundamental.
Yeah. Now, given your background in clinical psychology and this, let's say, new modalities that you teach, how do you see the future actually of mental health treatments evolving?
Well, I am. My friends say I'm a desperate positive person. I see that everybody's interested in these things.
Mm-hmm.
There's never a person that I talk to with these kind of topics and they say, oh, I'm not interested. I want to be sad, I want to be grumpy, and I want to be in conflict all my life. No, people are like me and you. People want to be happy and joyous and abundant. And so it's just that there is no narrative available. There are no words available. There is no activity available in their life, in their daily life, to introduce more of that.
Yeah.
But it's not that they are not interested.
Mm-hmm.
So I think because there is a need, it's a real desire of people to go in this direction, it's happening. It's happening at every scale at different speed. Like, mind and body have different speeds. So big establishment structures have slow speed. And maybe sometimes you want to do something on your own and go and explore yourself, even if it's a methodology that is not officially recognized for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also why it's interesting to use your body, use your intuition. Okay, does it feel good or not?
Yeah.
Because we have this situation often, which is kind of interesting, where things make sense, but they don't feel good. And I always say, don't do them.
Mm-hmm.
Things don't make sense, but they feel good.
Yeah.
And that's for me, it's like, okay, try that,
Yeah.
So learn when to use the rational mind, how to use the rational. It's a tool. You are not inside of the rational mind. The rational mind is one part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And you can develop other tools. And I think everybody's interested, and I think mental health is going in that direction as well. I see it in academia because when I did the PhD, of course, I got in contact with many people that are working on this. Also in education, is not only in medicine or alternative medicine techniques or new medicine techniques. It's also in education, how to create this experience for people who want to develop projects or for people who study in regular school curricula, so that you introduce this bigger space for words and narratives that are inclusive. There are transcultural, transdisciplinary, as is in my bio, transpersonal.
Yeah.
All these elements are connected. That's why you start with giving the person an experience of the transpersonal, but the consequence is that you are reorganizing all these other hidden bias.
Yeah.
And it's not that people are bad, it's just that there is no other language available.
Yeah.
As soon as you give it, they feel stronger, they feel healthier, they feel more possibilities. Of course they want it.
Yeah.
So I think it's happening. Maybe you don't see it as fast as you would like in some structures in society, but I think it's inevitable because, we all want to live a better life, always.
Yeah. Yeah, you say that you work with individuals, people also in group, but also I heard you say that you work sometimes in corporate environments for companies.
Yes.
Personally, I think, when you can have more access to corporate environments and companies, then you can make more impact because you reach more people in a shorter amount of time. But I also sense, and I hear from people around me that doing similar kind of work, that it's not so easy to get in. Do you have maybe some tips and advice how to reach these kind of people within companies and how to be able to have access and show your work there?
Yes, absolutely. It goes back to the idea that you have to respect the person you're working with and find the words that belong to their narrative, their story, not you. You start a story where they are, not what you are. And so corporate people have a set of words and semantics and concepts that they recognize. There is stress management, anxiety, there is team building, problem solving, adaptability is a big one because in corporate things change so fast and you thought you were working on this and now I have to work on that. If you are not super high level, that happens all the time. And 90% of the people are not super high level. So if you want to impact your workforce, you have to think of these situations. And then, of course, when you are at the top, you work with different styles of leadership. So you can go a little more maybe in depth with all these aspects that we discussed. You can talk about the subliminal, the subconscious, and have them access these resources. Maybe when you go one step below, like the normal, typical workshop for corporate sector will be about team building. And then you introduce an exercise for stress management. And basically the exercises are the same. You just change the container. You change the words that you use. And then they have this emotional experience just as well. They have this moment of, wow, I didn't know that the person who is at the concierge at the door with the secretary, with the manager and the guy that has the machine in production, they share a dream. Mm-hmm. And suddenly they are in the same dream space. And like, how is that possible? And then they smile at each other when they see each other at work. You create a connection that goes so fast beyond all the mental limitations, the mental bias. Mm-hmm. But also you give exercises that can calm anxiety. Maybe you are at work, there is a conversation that makes you stressed because you were working at something and they changed that. And you cannot oppose that because your boss is telling you to do that. So you focus your awareness. When you feel that, you are contracting maybe your tongue or your palate veil. And then you check, okay, am I contracting here as well? Okay, move your awareness here. Relax. The position of the spine changes. And you relax your jaw, you relax your tongue. And suddenly you see the other person is going to relax as well.
Yeah.
So you can change the conversation with things that you do in your body.
Definitely.
And you don't even have to talk to this person what you're doing. You just do it inside of yourself and you see that the other person is also more calm. It's interesting. So you can use this kind of examples and concepts and practical exercises.
Yeah, definitely.
I think
and then you can really use it within discussions that you have in the company or communication that you need to do to your team, and learn actually first to go into the body, listen to the body, relax, and then communicate and speak. And then you're going to have different kind of conversations, I think, than when you only speak out of the mind. So really, really helpful, definitely. Yeah,
you speak from there, and people are give me more. They're all stressed that you speak from a place like that.
Definitely,
like, oh God, give me more.
Exactly.
It's not like I'm more stressed than you are. No, I am more stressed than you are. What is it?
yeah, definitely, yeah. And then it's kind of a battle or something that you're gonna have. But I think when you go more into the body, you're also able to share more about your feelings, how you feel about this, how I feel about that. If you're gonna do this or if you're gonna do that, then you have this kind of conversation. You have more empathic conversations, I would say, from there. Yeah.
But you don't even have to use those words because
No.
Some people are oh my God, this is hippie.
Yeah.
This is this is the Antichrist. You cannot say those words. So you don't. You say stress management. You say things that they like. And then you do the exercise and they relax and they can use it and you're fine. You're happy. You've done your work.
There's definitely
They call you and they say, hey, I like that thing. Can we talk about my situation at home? Of course.
Yeah.
Come in. No problem.
It's definitely good advice for all the other facilitators and people that are doing this work that are watching or listening to use this kind of strategy, I would say. For people that are interested in doing this kind of work, what advice would you give them actually to take the first step? What considerations would you actually offer to them?
I think obviously you need to find a school, a teacher that you like, a methodology that speaks to you personally, not only professionally, because this is, I think, kind of work that is best done when you are involved to the core, like when you have your soul, your essence is behind it. That's when you're going to have true impact, maximum impact. So it's this is a plus because you're going to study something for work, but you're actually improving your own life. So consider that it's not something only a tool for work. Consider a methodology that maybe is going to be not so obvious, maybe it's a little scary, but you know somebody who did that and it went well and they are happy. So look at what you see, because people will tell you, I like this, I like that, but what you see. Do you see that the person is happy? Do you think that the person is relaxed or not? So follow those kind of more intuitive clues. And then try different things, and you will find your path. I think working with the body is interesting, but it's not the only priority. Maybe you start with something that is more about psychology or group dynamics or NLP, cognitive behavioral therapy, whatever you want to start with.
Many options.
Many options. I think there is, it's kind of different cursor. There is a lot of value in having a good teacher.
Yeah.
And a good teacher is a teacher you like. It's not only a teacher that is well prepared.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people who are well prepared out there, and I don't want to work with them. So there is an element of, does this person make me feel that I'm learning,
Yeah.
that I'm a better person?
Yeah. That's what most things in life.
I would.
So most things in life, the personal aspects.
I'm sorry to be a bit maybe not creative in this aspect of the conversation, but the advice is really that one.
Yeah.
Be involved, be out there, because for me, what happens at any level in any kind of workshop, whether it's corporate, whether it's holistic, whether it's group or individual, there is a moment in the session where you are out of your depth, where something is happening and you don't have control, and that's fine because that's exactly what you planned for.
Yeah.
So you need to be aligned. You need to be safe and honest, because that's what you need to pilot the ship in those moments.
Yeah.
When you know in your heart that you're doing all you can and that you're respecting all the knowledge that you've been imparted, nobody can touch you. Mm-hmm. Nobody can. It doesn't matter that you are not some guru or some stellar coach. It does not matter.
Yeah.
What matters is that you are there with all that you can give. Nobody can tell you did anything wrong.
Yeah.
So I think maybe a good step is, are you ready for that?
Mm-hmm.
You get involved with a methodology where you feel you're going to give that much, because that moment is going to come.
Yeah.
And you want to use it as an opportunity for success.
Yeah.
You don't want to use it as a moment where you feel not apt,
Yeah.
Incapable is a bad word, but you want to use it also. People have this sense. When those moments arrive, people in your group, people in your session are going to look at you.
Yeah.
And they're going to see what you do. And if you come out triumphant as a lion with this crown of light, they're going to follow you. and that's what you have when you go that deep. That's what you have. That's when you access that energy.
Yeah.
And people put their life in your hands sometimes. They want to see that.
Yeah. I'm not sure if everybody can decide for themselves if they are ready for that. They sometimes don't know what they should be ready, what they should be ready for. I think it's just being open for new experiences and self-discovery. I think it's all about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I get emotional.
Yeah, no, it's okay. That's okay. That's fine.
The big image, but yes.
Yeah.
You can learn step by step.
Now, if people want to learn more about you, and where can people find you?
I have a website, Institute of Applied Somatics. I don't know if you have a way to put the link.
Yeah, I'll put a link here in the description, definitely.
Institute of Applied Somatics.com. You'll see all our programs. And there's one coming up for fascia. We have pelvic floor and breathing. These are the 3 modules for the somatic psychology training. Mm-hmm. Any module is separate, so you might want to work on breath flow. You might want to work on fascia and nervous system. It's fine. And in any case, you can always write, and I read all the emails. So me or somebody from the team will reply, but I read all the emails. So that's not a problem.
And you do sessions online, and you do them here in Spain, I guess, right?
Both in English is more online.
That's more online, okay.
But I'm available. There's a big community of expats here in Barcelona. So, of course, it happens that somebody wants a one-on-one session, and we do it here at my studio.
Yeah, okay. Amazing. Is there anything, a last thing you would like to share to the audience, something that you find important to conclude this session?
I think I gave the big picture, the triumphant lion with the sunlight. But this kind of work is a lot about being humble, actually. And this is how you train to be in control of the rational mind. We tend to have this big ego reflex, this explaining things, and so it's interesting. Play with the things you don't do. Play with the things you don't say. Mm-hmm. Like you have a sentence, you want to say, okay, remove one word. Let's see what happens. How is the other person reacting? You are at the crosslight, and the crosslight is green. Instead of just taking the first step, just wait. Don't do the first step. Let's see what happens. Play with not doing. not doing with the body, not doing with the mind, is the thoughts. Thoughts are actions of the mind. So play with that. I think it's a first little entry door to the subconscious, and it's playful. It's fun. You can do it anywhere you are.
Very wise words. Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you in general for being a guest on the podcast. It was really valuable stuff that you shared here with everybody, and I hope that some people really take some action and want to explore this field if they haven't done it before, and maybe contact you or maybe get in touch with someone else that's doing similar kind of work. That's actually the goal of sharing this information here. And I really appreciate you for doing this kind of work, and I wish you a lot of success and with everything you do. And again, thank you very much, and keep in touch.
Thank you, Hank, for giving us all, who are in this line of work, a platform. Lovely to be your guest, and we'll be in touch.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Ciao. Bye-bye.